What if I told you that ancient prophecies, some written hundreds of years ago, have predicted events that could happen this very year, 2024? From mysterious predictions about world leaders to terrifying warnings of natural disasters, the idea that our future could be set in stone is both fascinating and frightening. Some of the world's most famous prophecies, including those from the Bible and the legendary Nostradamus, point to signs that suggest the world is on the brink of major, possibly catastrophic, changes. These predictions aren't just vague guesses. They are detailed, specific, and eerily accurate when you look at today's world. Prophets predicted wars, political upheaval, and climate disasters long before they made headlines today. St. Malachi, for example, a 12th century bishop, predicted a list of popes that would lead the Catholic Church to its final days. His prophecy suggests Pope Francis may be the last before the end of the world. Some of these prophecies, many of which have already come true, point to 2024 as a pivotal year for humanity. With everything happening in the world, wars, natural disasters, political turmoil, it's almost like the pieces are falling into place. Let's start with one of the most shocking prophecies, the idea that the next pope will be the last one. Ancient prophecies predict the end of the world and the end of popes after Pope Francis. St. Malachi, the Irish bishop who predicted the fates of over 100 popes with chilling accuracy, said the 112th pope, the one currently sitting in the Vatican, will reign during the time of great tribulations and chaos. He called him Peter the Roman, who will witness the destruction of the city of Rome and possibly the world as we know it. Nostradamus, the famous French seer, also predicted a series of shocking events that could unfold this year. One of his most intriguing prophecies is the potential fall of King Charles III of England. After his diagnosis of cancer, some believe he might step down from the throne, just as Nostradamus predicted. These are just the beginning of the many prophecies that suggest we could be living in very, very interesting times. While some might laugh off these ancient predictions, it's hard to ignore how closely they seem to align with the world we live in today. The Bible, one of the most ancient and studied texts in the world, is full of warnings about the end times. One of the most chilling passages comes from Matthew 24:22, where Jesus warns that if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. What does this mean? It implies the impending arrival of a period of immense agony, one that could wipe out humanity itself without divine intervention. But it's not just vague warnings that the Bible provides. In the book of Revelation, we find a more detailed description of the horrors that await in the end times. Revelation 16 describes a series of plagues and disasters that will ravage the earth, scorching heat, water turning to blood, and the collapse of cities. The Great Tribulation, a period of intense suffering preceding the final judgment, frames these events. And here's the kicker: many theologians and scholars believe that we're already living in the lead-up to this terrifying time. While the Bible warns of divine judgment, there's another very real threat to humanity's survival: our own technology. For the first time in history, human beings have the power to destroy the world with the push of a button. Jesus warns in Matthew 24:22 that if we don't shorten these terrible times, no living thing could survive. This warning feels eerily relevant today as the world's stockpile of nuclear weapons grows ever larger. Consider this: in the 1950s, the US and the Soviet Union developed hydrogen bombs so powerful that they could annihilate entire cities in seconds. Fast forward to today, and at least 9 nations possess nuclear weapons. Some experts believe that it's not a question of if a nuclear war will happen, but when. The more nations that have these devastating weapons, the greater the risk that someone will use them. Russia and China are flexing their military muscles, while tensions between the United States, North Korea, and Iran continue to simmer. One misstep or misunderstanding could unleash these weapons. If that happens, not only will one country suffer, but the entire planet could be at risk. Another frightening aspect of the doomsday prophecies involves the natural disasters that seem to be happening more frequently and with greater intensity. The Bible speaks of earthquakes, famines, and plagues that will ravage the earth during the end times. In Revelation 16:18, we read about a great earthquake, such as there had not been since men were on the earth, so great and so mighty. Over the past few years, we've seen a dramatic rise in extreme weather events. In 2023 alone, the world witnessed record-breaking wildfires in Canada, deadly floods in Libya, and an unprecedented heatwave that scorched much of Europe. The US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has already predicted that 2024 could be one of the hottest years on record, with a 99% chance that it will rank among the top 5 hottest years ever recorded. Scientists warn that if global temperatures continue to rise, we could see more frequent and severe disasters like hurricanes, droughts, and wildfires. One of the most debated and intriguing prophecies comes from St. Malachi, a 12th century Irish bishop who claimed to have had visions of every pope that would lead the Catholic Church until its final days. In his vision, there would be 112 popes, and the 112th would see Rome fall and the end times begin. Here's where it gets really interesting. St. Malachi's list has been strikingly accurate so far, and Pope Francis is believed to be the 112th pope. If this prophecy is to be believed, his reign could signal the beginning of the end of the Church, and perhaps even the world. The prophecy predicts that the final pope, Peter the Roman, will guide the Church through a period of great tribulation, potentially even aligning with the Antichrist. During this time, the city of Rome will face destruction, and the world will spiral into chaos. Some see Pope Francis, with his humble and reformative nature, as a sign that these times are upon us. While some scholars argue that the prophecy is nothing more than medieval superstition, others are quick to point out how closely it aligns with the current state of the world. The Bible, particularly in the books of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation, contains some of the most famous and detailed end-of-the-world prophecies. These predictions describe events that will unfold in the final days, including the rise of false prophets, wars, famines, and natural disasters. The Antichrist is a key concept in Christian eschatology. The Antichrist is believed to be a figure who will rise to power in the last days, deceiving the world and leading many away from God. People often describe this individual as charismatic and powerful, initially bringing peace and prosperity, but eventually revealing their true evil intentions. In the book of Revelation, the Antichrist works alongside the false prophet, a religious leader who misleads people into worshipping a false god. Many believers are on the lookout for these figures today, wondering if political or religious leaders might fit the description. Could we already be seeing the rise of an Antichrist-like figure in the world's political landscape? The Bible warns us to be vigilant because these events will happen unexpectedly. Prophecies from centuries ago warned about this, and now we're seeing the cracks in our seemingly indestructible civilization. Whether it's through war, environmental collapse, or the misuse of powerful technology, humanity's ability to destroy itself has never been more real. One of the greatest threats to humanity's existence is the very technology we developed to protect ourselves: nuclear weapons. Since 1945, the world has been under the constant threat of these devastating weapons of war. At any given moment, nations with nuclear arsenals have the ability to wipe entire cities off the map with the press of a button. Right now, there are over 13,000 nuclear warheads in the world, held by countries like the United States, Russia, China, and North Korea. Even more frightening than this staggering number is the ease with which these weapons could come into action. A simple political misstep, a miscommunication between world leaders, or even a rogue state's defiance could trigger a conflict that spirals out of control. The Bible warned of times like this. In Matthew 24:22, Jesus foretold that if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. Scholars have interpreted this as a reference to humanity's potential for self-destruction, something that wasn't possible until we developed nuclear technology. With tensions rising between major powers like the US and China, and the ongoing threat of conflict in regions like North Korea and the Middle East, the world stands on the brink of a potential disaster. Scientists maintain the doomsday clock as a symbolic measure to assess humanity's proximity to global catastrophe, and it currently stands at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been. This chilling reminder shows just how fragile our world has become. Scientists maintain the doomsday clock as a symbolic measure to assess humanity's proximity to global catastrophe, and it currently stands at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been. This chilling reminder shows just how fragile our world has become. While nuclear weapons represent a man-made threat, another danger is looming just as large: the environment. Over the last century, humanity's impact on the planet has been devastating. Our addiction to fossil fuels, industrial farming, and deforestation has led to a climate crisis that is already showing disastrous consequences. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, reports that the alarming rate of global temperature rise is causing more frequent and severe weather events. In 2023 alone, we saw devastating wildfires in places like Canada and Greece, record heat waves across Europe, and catastrophic floods in Libya and Pakistan. These events are part of a larger pattern that threatens the very foundations of human civilization, not isolated incidents. The Bible speaks of natural disasters as signs of the end times. In Luke 21:11, Jesus declares, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, along with fearful events and great signs from heaven." Could the current environmental disasters be the fearful events predicted by Jesus? Some believe that the increase in these events is a clear warning that the earth itself is reaching a breaking point. But unlike nuclear weapons, this threat isn't something we can stop with diplomacy or treaties. The damage we've done to the planet is already well underway, and scientists warn that if we don't take drastic action soon, we may face a future where large parts of the world become uninhabitable due to rising sea levels, extreme heat, and food shortages. While nuclear weapons and environmental collapse are immediate dangers, there's another silent threat growing in the shadows: technology. The same technological advances that have made our lives easier, safer, and more connected could also be the cause of our downfall. Artificial intelligence, AI, for example, has made leaps and bounds in recent years. Despite its potential to transform industries, medicine, and other fields, numerous experts express concern about the potential negative uses of AI. If you're finding this content insightful and thought-provoking, consider hitting the Super Thanks button. By supporting us, you're helping us continue bringing more detailed analyses, captivating stories, and intriguing revelations straight to you. Prophecies, in many ways, are like alarms. They aim to jolt us into action, not to terrify us into paralysis. Think of them as a warning sign on a dangerous road ahead. They warn us that if we persist on this path without altering our course, we are on the verge of disaster. In today's world, it's evident how close we are to crossing that boundary. Nuclear war, once thought to be a distant possibility, is a growing threat as tensions between powerful nations increase. Climate change is no longer a problem of the future. It's affecting millions of people around the world right now, and technology, with all its benefits, is also introducing risks that we've barely begun to understand. Even though these prophecies speak of doom and destruction, there's another side to them. They remind us that humanity still has the power to change its course. It's not too late to take action, to steer away from the dangers that loom over us. Our choices continue to impact the future. As individuals, we may feel small in the face of such overwhelming threats. But remember, every great change in history started with people deciding that enough was enough. This may prevent the worst if we see these prophecies as a wake-up call rather than just stories. The thought is unsettling, but it's also a reminder of how precious our time is. The decisions we make now, in this moment, could determine whether the future is one of survival and hope or destruction and despair. This is a critical time in human history, and it's one that demands our full attention. Whether you believe in these ancient predictions or not, there's no denying that the world is facing immense challenges. The choices we make, both individually and as a global society, will shape the future for generations to come. It's time to take a hard look at the road ahead and decide whether we'll ignore the warnings or take action to create a different outcome. We may not know exactly what the future holds, but one thing is certain. The time for complacency is over, the clock is ticking and the signs are all around us. We must decide now. Will we rise to the occasion or let these prophecies happen? Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.